Okay, is Harley-Davidson done as a company? Are they going to fold like Victory? Is this their last stand, their last breaths? Well, with the recent news that Harley CEO Matthew Levatich, who was supposed to save the company, stepped down, it definitely begs the question. And it's worth noting that as he stepped down, he said, "I am proud of what we have achieved during my time as CEO in one of the most challenging periods in our history." All right, up front, this video is not meant to be negative in any way. You know, I care deeply actually about the future of Harley-Davidson and their continued existence. It's why I can get a little passionate at times about subjects like this. You know, I love my Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and in fact, I ride one every day as a police motorcycle officer, so I have an interest in their continued success. Welcome back, Bikeaholics. Ryan Urlacher here, lawabidingbiker.com. I always thank you, that's right, you, for checking back in. All right, I have a ton of information to throw at you, but real quick, if you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know, I don't work for Harley-Davidson. I don't own a dealership. I'm in no way associated with them. I don't need anything from Harley. And that's why I don't have to filter any of my thoughts or opinions about them. I am a Harley enthusiast. I have given them plenty of money over the years, but I certainly don't agree with everything they do. So let's dive in. So I'm going to throw some information at you of kind of what's going on. And then later in the video, I'll give you some of my opinions. And I actually really look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on the matter. So make sure you leave comments below. Join the conversation. This is a community here on this channel. So it's no secret that Harley's been struggling for some time. Their sales have been declining steadily year after year. You see, there's just been a prolonged weakness in demand for their bigger, expensive touring bikes, which makes up the core of its model line. And in addition, Harley's loyal base of older customers who really drove the Harley revival in the 80s and 90s, well, they're aging and they're just not buying as many new bikes. And so Harley needed to do something quickly. So back in 2015, they selected Levatich as CEO, and they had hopes that he would really save the company. A little background on him: he actually joined the company in 1994. He served as chief operating officer from 2009 to 2015. And so he had a good background and understanding of the company. So there was really high hopes and expectations for him. So now let's dive in and talk about what the company has tried to do over the past 5 years under the leadership of Levatich. And so to start, Levatich authorized dozens of new models in both the US and foreign markets. And I think it's clear that Harley sees big opportunities in those foreign markets, and so they've been targeting them. But it's been difficult because of competition from existing brands that are already solid in those markets. They also expanded output of motorcycles overseas, looking for new customers, especially in Asia. But you see, the smaller bikes aimed at that market, they're less expensive than the big, expensive Harley touring bikes that they rely on here in the US, and that has really hurt the company's overall sales revenue. Interestingly, Levatich set a goal of selling half of all Harleys overseas, and he missed that mark last year, and only 42% of sales volume was outside the US. So they're also targeting different segments of the motorcycle market. Here in 2020, they're supposed to release their first adventure bike called the Pan America. I don't know with this news whether it's now going to be released in 2020. They're also trying to get into the street bike market with their Street Fighter, which is a concept bike. We don't have a release date for that yet. And then don't forget, they came out with their first electric motorcycle, which they named the LIVEWIRE. It had some issues up front, some recalls with its charging system. I actually did a video on that, and you should check it out. I'll pop a card on the screen here and link in the description below. And so Levatich tried to offset declining sales with overall cost reductions. We all know back in 2019, they closed the Kansas City plant. There was multiple rounds of layoffs and voluntary buyouts for employees. They also shifted some of their productions overseas to avoid tariffs, and they took a lot of consumer and political heat for doing that. Another big focus of Levatich was to attract new riders. After all, new riders equals new sales, right? Well, that hasn't gone so well, so let me explain. So they tried to attract new riders with their ridership classes at dealerships. Those are basically driver's ed classes for new riders. Now, these weren't new. The company had been doing them for a long time. It's just they renewed their focus on promoting these classes and attracting those new riders. But one of the problems was measuring progress towards the ridership goal actually created tensions between Harley managers, dealers, and investors. Of course, this festered over time. The dealerships were saying that the classes were expensive and they just didn't bring in enough new buyers. And the tensions didn't stop there. They actually rose even more between dealerships and Levatich as he tried to bring in new models and new engines and other things to revive sales, and they just didn't work. So we all know they also created a fleet of smaller, cheaper bikes, the Street Series as an example, to try to draw a younger generation. However, over time, it didn't really seem to move the needle, and they didn't get the attention from that younger generation that they were looking for. So with Matthew Levatich stepping down, who is going to take over as CEO, well, Harley announced that Jochen Zeitz will serve as acting CEO and board chairman as they look for a new permanent CEO. So they're accepting applications, so don't miss the deadline. Who is Jochen Zeitz? Well, his background is in sporting goods and lifestyle products. He was actually the CEO of Puma SE from 1993 to 2011. He actually led a big turnaround of that company when it was on the brink of bankruptcy. Let's just hope he can do the same here. And so here we are, Bikeaholics. I truly believe that this is a very grave time for Harley-Davidson as a company. It very well may be. I don't know for sure, but it may be their last stand to keep the company alive as we all know it. Oh, and by the way, we've had an awesome discussion on this topic and many other topics in the private patron member only Facebook group. It's a troll-free zone. It's nothing but bikers helping bikers. I'll leave a link in the description below on how you become a member. You get access to that and a whole bunch of other really cool benefits. It does help support us. It assures we can continue our mission to help, educate, and entertain as many bikers as we can worldwide. Okay, so I'm going to share my overall thoughts. And again, I really look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions, so make sure you leave a comment below. So let me just say that I believe Levatich tried and worked really hard over the past 5 years to try to revive the motor company. I think he did some really good things. At the end of the day, my opinion, he was handed a sandwich, and he tried his hardest to make the best out of it. So I think it was really smart for Levatich to try to break into those different segments of the motorcycle market, as we discussed: adventure riding, sports bike riding, the electric motorcycle. Definitely a good idea to try to draw that younger generation of riders and buyers. Certainly smart to try to increase sales and a presence in the overseas markets. And although it sucks, I'm not sure Levatich really had a choice when he had to close the Kansas City plant and lay people off, because who knows, had they not done that, they might have already gone under. All right, and as a reminder, this video is not meant to be negative. What I'm going to go over now is what I believe the company has been failing at miserably, at least since 2014. And I truly believe that it is irritating customers, and it is one of the reasons they're losing once very brand loyal customers. All right, let's just start with the Harley tax. You know, I think everybody's tired of paying the Harley tax. Anything, you know, that's stamped with a Harley logo is marked up. And it's not just marked up a little, it's excessively marked up. And I just believe that buyers are way more educated these days, and we just aren't buying that stuff. We're going aftermarket, which most of the time it's better quality anyway, such as, you know, boots and gloves and helmets and things like that. And because they've marked it up excessively, I do believe that they're losing revenue in merchandise sales over time. And of course, customers are frustrated with the boombox infotainment system debacle, all the problems that it's had, the problems it continues to have, and the complete lack of support customers have received. This has been going on since 2014 and continues to this very day. And then there's the new overly strict warranty issues with the newer MILWAUKEE-EIGHT bikes, where Harley has basically forced their dealerships to void loyal customers' warranties over trivial items. And I made a very popular YouTube video on that. I'll try to pop a card on the screen, link in the description below. You'll want to check it out and decide whether a warranty is even worth purchasing anymore. So the next one I'm going to talk to you about is big, and we're going to spend just a little bit of time on it. But first, let me start by playing a clip from an interview with former CEO Matthew Levatich back on July 30th, 2018.
I don't want anyone to think that we're running away from our core customer and the strength that the company has today.
And so unfortunately, I believe that's exactly what Harley, under the leadership of Levatich, has actually done. Yes, they've left us, their core customer, their core market base behind in their hot pursuit of the new generation of riders. And let's be honest, if Harley was smart, they would read every comment below, as many of you out there are, in fact, their core customer. And I don't think Levatich intentionally or knowingly left us, the core customers, behind. Nonetheless, it has happened. I blame it more on their horrible and outdated marketing team. And yeah, their marketing team should all be fired for their years of bad decisions and proven failures in Marketing 101. Instead of breaking down barriers and connecting in a personal way with their core customers, they've actually put up barriers. And so their marketing team is really throwing a ton of advertising dollars at a community that's non-bikers. They don't eat, live, and breathe motorcycles. And I want to dive in just a little bit deeper because I know and I know so many of you out there, we look at it and we really look at their marketing team as really abandoning what Harley-Davidson once stood for. I mean, it's the way Harley-Davidson built their brand. It wasn't just, if you look back, it wasn't just about the motorcycles. Of course, they make great motorcycles and we love riding them, but it was everything that surrounded the brand. And they really promoted this lifestyle, a different lifestyle, for people that eat, live, and ride Harley-Davidsons. And it was really a big community. And I just feel like they've really sort of just thrown that into the wind, which is very interesting because, again, that's how they actually built their brand in the first place. So leaving us, their core customers, in the dust, they instead went after Hollywood actors and extreme sports athletes, just to name a few. You see, in this day and age, nobody cares about an overprivileged Hollywood actor being given a Harley to ride. That doesn't speak to us. We don't care that you gave a non-motorcycle riding extreme athlete a free Harley to ride around. I get it that you have to go after some of those markets, and that's fine. But in the meantime, you've completely neglected and forgot about us, the core customers who are standing by and we're waiting to be spoken to. Oh, and let us not forget about the internship vloggers that they tried to do for a while. Like, no skin off their back, but nobody knew who these people were and they really weren't even motorcycle enthusiasts. It still just makes no sense to me. These particular vloggers had not spent years of blood, sweat, and tears developing and gaining an online following and audience, and therefore, of course, nobody followed them. Harley, listen up. You need to connect with us, your core customers, in places like here on YouTube, motorcycle podcasts, other online communities. These are large platforms with very large, passionate communities that other companies have been leveraging for years. Every day that goes by, you're falling further behind. All you need to do is open your eyes and ears and look around a little bit to other industries, such as tech, for an example, that are properly leveraging influencer platforms to connect intimately with their core customers. This isn't new. You see, these companies have simply figured out that they get way more exposure and audience connection than they do from a traditional TV ad. And oftentimes a YouTube audience is larger than traditional TV anyways. And it's definitely more targeted. Oh, and by the way, Harley, that younger generation you're going after, they're actually spending way more time watching online videos and spending time in online communities than watching traditional TV. Oh, and so is a very large portion of your current core customers. And in addition, they're not really buying magazines and outdated print media anymore. Consider those just a few free Marketing 101 tips. And just to be clear, I'm not saying any of the previous in hopes that Harley contacts me or sponsors me someday. If that were to ever happen, I would have to heavily consider it and make sure that whatever it was a direct benefit to this community. You see, I've worked really hard for 7 years building this YouTube channel and community without any help or need from Harley-Davidson. And truth be told, they may not be that fond of me, as I often do speak the truth, and at times I am critical of them. At the end of the day, all I really hope Harley does is eventually reaches out and reconnects with their core customers and audience. Oh, and on a side note, because I can see the comments now, just switch to Indian motorcycles. Let me just tell you, here we love Indian motorcycles. Guys have ridden them, guys have owned them. I want you to make no mistake about it. Polaris right now is experiencing a lot of the same issues as Harley-Davidson with those Indian motorcycles, and they too are struggling. And it's worth noting that Polaris is not nearly as transparent as Harley is when it comes to telling you how they're performing, so we're not always sure. We do know that in the fourth quarter of last year, Indian sales were down in the low double-digit amounts. Oh, and just as a reminder, make sure you listen to and get subscribed to the Law Abiding Biker podcast. You can listen to it on any podcast app. We talk about subjects like this and a whole bunch of other topics, and we get into a lot more detail. And we have a lot of fun. And of course, I'll link to it in the description below. Okay, here's the dealio. Harley, I'm not telling you to stop marketing to the younger generation. I think that's super important. I think it's important for future company growth. I think everybody here understands that. But just don't forget where your current revenue is coming from. Yep, you got it. Your core customers as of right now. Remember, if you lose our support, you lose your company. And Harley, most importantly, you need to keep your current customers happy. After all, they are the ones that will be introducing that younger generation of riders you're after to motorcycling and future Harley ownership. Chew on that one.